Normally we go to a toy show in Nuremberg. It's the biggest toy show. And we have a lot of competitors. They're making scooters. But we wanted to say, we're not making a toy. We're making a vehicle to drive from A to B for kids. It has to be safe and long term. So we said, why don't we make a small car that looks like a toy, but is a car as a model to show to all our customers that we are capable to make vehicles and not just toys. Anyhow, so we had this first prototype. It was actually running. Then we showed in Geneva, the biggest car show in Europe. And the media was really very fascinated.
Well, trust me, this conversation is not just about micromobility. It's a lot more about building a business, an aspirational brand, and then scaling up globally through the right partners. I'm sure you wouldn't want to miss this, so stay tuned for the full conversation. Hello and welcome back to yet another episode on the Mission Shunya podcast. Hope you're doing well. For all new listeners, Shunya means zero, and this podcast has over 90 plus episodes covering a range of topics around the global net zero carbon transition. We always appreciate your feedback. Leave a rating or feedback on iTunes, Spotify, or missionshunya@gmail.com. A lot of podcast ideas and guest recommendations have come from listeners on social media at Mission Shunya or via email, so make sure you send me your message. The podcast is regularly supported by friends and well-wishers. In fact, our friends at Terra Generation have an interesting episode collaboration coming up for episode 100. So subscribe to get notified when every episode goes live. Yes, Team Terra Generation is behind the artworks for each episode. They do a lot more with specialization in telling stories in climate, biodiversity, and sustainability. If you have any requirement, visit them at terrageneration.com. While we inch towards 100, we also have interesting episodes coming along, like this conversation with the passionate entrepreneur. Well, mobility is a key piece in the net zero puzzle, and micromobility, that is shorter transits, especially involving one or two people, account for nearly 25% of transport emissions annually. I'm sure you would have seen the kick scooters or even the electric version of it in global cities. And our guest, who's nicknamed the Swiss Elon Musk, had a big role in its popularity. So who's our guest whose voice you heard at the start of the conversation, and what is his new venture all about?
Hi, my name is Wim Ouboter. I'm 62 years old. I'm a Swiss citizen. I'm happily married with my wife, Janine, and I have two lovely kids, Oliver and Merlin, that are supporting me in my new venture, the Microlino, which is a small car with electric, of course, and which goes on the heavy quadricycle.
Well, Wim, before we get into the latest adventure of yours, if I were to put it that way, how did you get started with micromobility way back in late 1990s? What inspired you at that point in time? And what was your journey before then until you got started with building the first kick scooters?
Well, first of all, I was living in Zurich, and to go to a restaurant, you had to go before 9 o'clock because the hot kitchen was closing at 9. But there was one sausage place in downtown Zurich that was open, of course, until midnight. So, but the way to the sausage place was too far to walk, and it was too short to take the bicycle out of your cellar. And that's what I said. This is like a distance. I needed a special vehicle, smaller than a bike, but where I would be faster than walking. So this micromobility came up. Actually, at the end, it was a collapsible scooter. This was in 1997 with the first prototype, and it worked perfect. But it looked a bit strange, a man with 1.90 m and driving on a very, very small, let's say, kick scooter. This was unusual for all the people. So I need to make it collapsible so I could put it into a shopping bag in order to go into a bar to have a beer without being laughed at. So that's the short version of the story.
Well, exactly. In 1997, I'm sure it was not even called micromobility. So you came up with the name called the kick scooter. And I'm sure the design was good, but how did you decide on to build this as a big brand that it is today? How did you go about building that? Did you see an immediate market for adoption?
No. First, I have to say I made a concept, and I renamed the company called Micro Mobility Systems.
Hmm?
And I made the first prototype, and I showed it then to my friends, and they said, "Oh, you're not going to be serious. Nobody's going to ride on something like this." And actually, I gave up. Then, about a half year later, the kids saw the prototype in my garage, and they were really standing a line. Sometimes 25 kids on a Wednesday afternoon or on a Saturday afternoon. And my wife said, there's something about it. I mean, you should look into it. So I asked my wife and said, you don't have a problem if your husband is making scooters for a profession? And she said, no, if you want to do it, I'm fully behind you. And this was actually the kickoff for this idea. And then I was looking for a partner for production. And I made a presentation at that time with Smart. Smart made the small car, unfortunately not electric.
Correct.
And this was like for the last mile. And they actually liked it. But then, unfortunately, what happened was the elk test, as we call it, and the project was kicked out of the accessory line of the Smart car at that time in 1999.
But how did you get back to the business of building this after that time?
After that, I was looking for somebody who was able to produce it. And I was going around in Europe. I couldn't find anyone. Everybody was asking for too much upfront money to do it. So I landed in Taiwan, a company that is specialized in making bicycle components. And the CEO, he really liked the idea. And so together we started the production, and we started to produce directly in China. And originally in China, he had 500 people making bicycle components. And after 1 year, he went up to 15,000 workers making my scooter in 3 factories. It was an incredible boom at that time.
Exactly. The reason I asked that question was because of the range of products that you currently offer, and even for, say, kick scooters. So how did you capture the market or the imagination of the people to build the range of products that you have in just kick scooters? You have varied ranges of kick scooters. Even you have electric kick scooters long before they became mainstream in the last few years. So how did this get going?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you that at the beginning, we only have 3 models, which was a 2 version of a 2-wheel kick scooter. And we had a 3-wheel, we call it kickboard. And these were only the 3 models we were making. But we made a lot of money because we produced only of these 3 models together per day, 80,000 pieces. And 80,000 pieces is about 20, 40-foot containers. When we made a good money, I always said I have to be ready for the future, because I mean, you get copied very quickly, and we were copied so quickly that it was even for me hard to believe how quickly this happens in China. And we had over 200 factories making more or less similar products at the lower price. And so for me, the answer was branding and to invest into innovation.
So, as you rightly said, the product is easily replicable, and especially when you do something in China, a lot of inventors like you have complained that the product is easily replicated in different factories. So how did you build the brand consciousness with Micro, and people associate kick scooters with Micro? How did that come about, and beating all the competition of all the lookalikes that you have seen in the last decades?
First of all, it's about the storytelling. So the media helped me a lot about the storytelling, where I not have to pay any money for this. And the second thing is we were really strongly look for the quality. Then it was also a cooperation with other brands. For example, we cooperated with a strong brand in the US with K2. This is a ski company. And this definitely helped. Afterwards, we were also doing co-branding with other products for the electric scooter with Peugeot. We made the first electric scooter. Then we made an electric scooter together with BMW. We made a scooter with a luggage together with Samsonite. Now we make one with Mercedes. So the idea is always to go together with another strong brand. So, and that brings a new brand into a higher level, without putting a lot of money into the marketing.
That's interesting. Well, having followed you for the last few years, I kind of understand you are very good in storytelling, and you do bring out the message very clearly and in very different ways. Like, for example, just the idea of partnering with a big brand is just an illustration of all the other things that you do, small activities. But now you're getting up for a big launch, the launch of Microlino. How did this idea come about? How did this idea of turning the iconic car, bubble car, into Microlino that it is today?
Yeah, thank you for this question. It's a lot of people ask me now, how can you come from a scooter to make now a small electric car? And it is really also a little bit of coincidence. A few things happened so that all of a sudden we are now producing our own car in Italy in our own factory. I would have never dreamed of doing something like this, especially not in my age. I'm now 62. Okay, let me tell you how it has started. Normally we go to a toy show in Nuremberg. It's the biggest toy show. And we have a lot of competitors, they're making scooters. But we wanted to say, we're not making a toy, we're making a vehicle to drive from A to B for kids. It has to be safe and long term. So we said, why don't we make a small car that looks like a toy, but is a car as a model to show to all our customers that we are capable to make vehicles and not just toys. You understand?
Fair.
So we made this study together with 10 students. And my older son went to China for producing this one prototype. And so we put it at our booth to give the story about mobility. It wasn't about toy. Our products are about mobility. You go to school with a scooter. You go and meet your friends with a scooter. So this mobility issue was very important. That's also why our company was called Micro Mobility System. Anyhow, so we had this first prototype. It was actually running. Was not homologated. Then we showed in Geneva, the biggest car show in Europe. And the media was really very fascinated. So my two sons, they said, Dad, you have to do this. I said, oh, no. Think of my age. I'm too old to do all this from the beginning. But if you two are helping me while you're studying, and when you directly after you study come into the company, we can make a family project together.
Nice. And that initial prototype turned into a family project and then into the car that is actually going to hit markets. It's already in a few markets, but it's going to hit global markets. So it must be a tough journey, especially in the last few years.
Yeah, but I have to tell you, it was so nice. When you're an entrepreneur and you have your own company, the best thing is if you can work together with your kids, and even if you can create together on a new project something. So this was for me, even if it was very difficult the last 5 years with things that happened unexpectedly. But at the end, I have to say I'm very, very grateful how this project was actually moving. And we are now, we have started the delivery, and we are delivering first in some European countries, and later on we are also looking into some license joint venture in other countries.
Well, I must ask you this question because the first time I heard about the car was through the news outlets and of course after the auto show. But ever since then, or even when you launched it in the auto show, you had like a huge brand awareness right from day one. People just signed up to a car that was not even close to production. It was just a prototype, but you had like a long list of people who signed up saying like, I'm interested, and they were also ready to pay upfront. So how did you build that excitement? And I'm sure they have stayed right through for the last few years now.
First of all, I really want to make clear that we never collected money from the customer until the production has started. So other companies are doing this different. Everything is self-financed. And although we had reservations of 36,000 cars, which is a lot, because it's not a car. In Europe, it's a heavy quadricycle.
Correct.
It's the same category like the Renault Twizy, which is not well known in every country. In the US, it's not even legal to ride this type of car if it has 4 wheels. If it has 3 wheels, it would be possible. That's an old American law, which doesn't make any sense. So anyhow, but by storytelling and by going to shows and having some also some celebrities that really liked the car, slowly and slowly we were going into the media. And now the first car we delivered in Italy was to the CEO of Gucci, and he got it as a birthday present for his 60th birthday from the holding company.
Wow.
So that shows you these kind of things we are doing that are not costing a lot and have quite a big PR potential.
Well, exactly. But it also helps that the car and the design itself is very unique compared to the other quadricycles in the space, right? It opens up front and you have a lot of space. It's electric, so everything adds up, and you offer it in a range of colors.
Yeah, but I have to tell you, when we decided about a small car, we have been analyzing the past and all the cars, and we found out two very important things. First, a small car should not look like a normal car, just downsized. It must look different. You understand? Very important.
Correct.
If you just downsize, let's say, a regular SUV and make a small car, it's the wrong way. The second thing is, in a small car, people should not sit behind each other. That's a motorbike feeling. People should sit next to each other. On the Renault Twizy, they sit behind each other. It's not a good idea. There's another company is also making a car, you sit behind each other. It's not the same feeling. So we have like a sit bench where two people can sit next to each other. And if you drive by yourself, you have a feeling you're sitting in a huge car. Okay. The next thing is, it has to have something unique. What is unique on the Microlino? These are two things. One is a front door. You open the front, which is not our invention. This was an idea from Italy from 1962, I think. Iso Rivolta is an Italian company who was coming up with this concept. BMW took the license. Then in 1964, they sold about 220,000 of these BMW Isetta. But this was a time after the Second World War where the people did not have enough money for mobility. So this was the only car, let's say car, if you can call it car, that they were able to afford. So this was a big boom. Afterwards, people were making more money, and then they wanted to have a real car. Today, it's a different story. Today, what we have to be careful is we have to save our planet.
Correct.
And we cannot continue buying and riding big cars if only 1.2 person is in a car and the average speed is less than 40 kilometers and the average distance is also less than 35 kilometers. We need smaller cars for the daily purpose.
Correct.
And this is the reason now we are heavily going out into the media with our concept, and the media is giving us a really big help to say this is the right concept. We need smaller cars, lighter cars, because with smaller cars you need less space. With smaller cars you have smaller tires. You need less braking power. That means less micro dust from the tires or from the braking system. So all these is something which is important, but we have to think smaller. And I think today it's another reason why a small car should have a chance, and we strongly believe the timing couldn't be better at the moment.
Exactly. And it can park in congested spaces, so that's a big win. And it's, of course, getting electric. It is electric, so there's a lot of factors that goes in this way. Now, building up to this launch, having followed the vehicle's production and up to the launch, I see a lot of ways in which you're promoting the brand. Of course, as you said, you give it to notable people and then build a brand awareness around that. Interestingly, the other thing also was a good way in which like 20, 30 cars were coming out of the factory production line and you had it in a trailer, you had it photographed, and that caught media's attention. So all of these things definitely add up to the brand awareness, and it helps in promoting the bigger statement like small cars, electric micro-mobility cars are the need of the hour. So as a general principle, or if you were to give any suggestions to entrepreneurs in this space, what would your suggestion be? Like, how can they work in this space to build a brand awareness and also sell products in a big way?
First of all, I mean, you have to find a network with partners that are already strong in that market. For example, for us, we are producing in Italy. In Italy, We have a partner for the production, only for the production. He is specialized in making the body in white. Body in white is the steel body, like every car has. And he's making steel bodies for McLaren, for Maserati, some parts for even for Ferrari. And he was very interested to make the first time in the world to make a steel body for this category.
Nice.
Because normally this category you work with tubular frame and then with ABS outside panels, which is for the safety issue, you cannot compare it. Sorry. I mean, we make a really safe car. We could only do this because we are going into a partnership with somebody who is an expert in this. So I'm always telling you, someone who has an idea, try to find a partnership. You cannot do it by yourself. That's my first advice.
Fair.
That you have to do, because this is you. If you start something new, there are other people that already have a big know-how, a big network, or something that can do it.
Correct. And I think that actually helps in getting the vehicle or any final product that you want faster to market. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. And then the other thing is you have to catch. If you have a product that can catch emotion, that will help a lot. I give you an example. That is the biggest channel for electric cars. It's called, probably it, Fully Charged.
Correct.
It's a YouTube channel from the UK. This guy came to our factory and he made a report. It's about a 20 minutes movie. I mean, it's unbelievable. You see the production and he is driving it. And I mean, we didn't pay anything for him, but he, as an expert for electric mobility, he makes a sales job for 20 minutes, which is unpayable, and this is a true story. You understand? It's because he is doing it because he is absolutely a fan of what we are doing. And this is important that you find people also from the media that really understands what you want to do, because you're honest, you're explaining them, and that will help you to let's say broadcast your idea into the world, let's say.
Well, that's really special when someone from Fully Charged comes and does it for free. And a lot of people who wouldn't know this probably would think like, hey, someone is paying them to do that.
No, we didn't pay. Absolutely not.
Glad that you clarified that it was done by them. So that really tells the car's value in the market. That's really wonderful, Wim. So now on to the final numbers perspective. Like, where are we in terms of delivering by end of Christmas? I'm sure Christmas period must be very hectic for you. What are you looking at in terms of numbers for the deliveries towards the end of the year?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, we are behind because of the supply chain. Plainly speaking, like any other car company had a problem. The only thing is, if you are the new kid on the block, you are being served at very last. You understand?
Correct.
Because we have no buying power. We have no, we are Mr. Nobody, So it's not that easy. Okay, finally, up to the end of this year, we probably make between 350 and 400 cars. We will mainly sell them in Switzerland. One reason is also because there is always some issues coming up in a new product, and we want to have them as close as possible so that we can react quickly. Afterwards, we will continue with the distribution in Germany, in Italy, in Belgium. And for next year, we have planned between 5,000 to maximum 7,000 cars for the 2023. And the following years, when all the supply chain is solved and we can work in 2 shifts, we can make 12,000 cars per year out of this factory in Turin. 12,000 cars is actually nothing when you compare it with this market that we are going to build up. I think it will be a little bit similar to our micro scooters. The market will be a lot bigger. But for us, as a family company, we cannot make another factory. So we are looking for some partnership, joint ventures. Of course, India for us is a very interesting market because I know a lot of motorbikes are coming from India. I have been visiting India and I was very, very, very impressed about the quality of manufacturing you are having in the motorbike production. And so that would be the next step. And to give you just a number about just in Rome, in Italy, in Rome, every year, Smart was selling 10,000 Smarts just in Rome. And the only reason is because the car was small. Because there in Rome, this is an old town, everything is narrow. You need small cars. Just to give you, 11,000 Microlinos is really nothing. But for us, it's a big chunk,
True. Well, yeah. The vehicle is built for certain markets and especially for certain type of commutes. And as you rightly said, places where there are narrow spaces, the product is definitely an absolute fit. And with the quality that the micro brand offers, I'm sure there'll be a lot of takers even in global markets. Wim, on a final note, you have been in the sustainable mobility space for a long time. But on a personal level, if I were to ask you, like, what drives you to kind of build sustainable businesses? I mean, what do you want to have your legacy as, like, when in this business? What's your big driving factor?
First of all, I like to be a businessman, of course, and I like the mechanism of making a business. That means you have to have an idea. You are producing a new product, a product that was not on the market before. I think it's very interesting. And then you need to motivate people that are believing, that are having the same vision like you and helping you. And they see the purpose of what we're doing. And what we're doing is really, there is no planet B. Every business should really consider, am I doing something to save our planet? Am I doing something which has a long-lasting purpose, and not just to make money? This is not the motto. You should, in a new business, you should do something to save our planet, because there is no planet B. So this is my big motivation. Besides that, to create new products and to see even young people how they like to take over responsibility. For me, this is a huge reward, and that's why I'm enjoying very much working with my two sons, Oliver and Merlin, and to make a small change and to make people change their thinking of, do I really need that SUV every day for a short trip just for myself? That would be nice if I can make this kind of change.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful note to kind of end the conversation on. I will definitely leave the links to connect with you and especially follow your social media handles, because I'm sure a lot of budding entrepreneurs will get the essence of storytelling and building a brand in this space and really convincing someone to buy or shift to sustainable alternatives. So Wim, it's been an absolute pleasure having known you and having followed your work for the last few years. So we really look forward to have the Microlino in international markets outside of Europe as well. Thanks very much for taking time to join me on the podcast.
Thank you very much. I hope one time you have a chance to test drive our car. You're always welcome to visit our factory in Turin. Thank you very much.
That was a wrap on yet another interesting conversation on the Mission Shunya podcast. I will leave the links to connect with Wim and the link to the fully charged episode that reviewed the Microlino in the show notes section and on the website missionshunya.com. Do check them out. Key takeaways from the conversation? Well, something that we emphasize time and again, storytelling is key in brand building. And if you're getting started with sustainability focused business, look at bigger partners who can give you a lift without costing you much. There's a lot to learn from Wim's story of building the micro mobility systems company and the brand globally. So do follow Microlino and Micro Mobility Systems. And finally, before I sign off, quick request to share your appreciation for the podcast by rating and writing a review on iTunes, Spotify, or any platform that you use. We are hitting 100 episodes soon, as I mentioned earlier, so it'll be good to increase the show's visibility among all the podcasts out there. Thank you in advance for that. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be back with yet another interesting conversation. Until then, this is Girish Shivakumar signing off, and as always, thank you for listening.